5 years ago, I bought this car with the intention of making it something special. 3 years ago, I started uploading content to YouTube, and what was I doing? I was building an engine. Not just any engine, a Toyota 2JZ. My goal was to cover all the steps, the parts, the costs, the headaches, everything in between. Everything that would get you from point A to point B, from getting the motor built on a stand to getting it in your car, and to finally getting it running.
About time.
Where did I go? I disappeared.
Why?
It's been almost 2 years since I last uploaded a video.
Why?
Isn't that crazy?
No.
You know what I didn't do? Finish it.
What the fuck?
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna fucking finish it. We're fucking back. We're back like Cheyenne Brittany in handcuffs. We're back like war in the Middle East. We're back like Linkin Park on tour. Yeah, we're back like Karma. We're back like for good, for good.
Okay, we get it, pal.
But yeah, today starts a new chapter. Hopefully, I can hold myself to the standard of getting videos out a little quicker, but we will see. There's new and old video, so just be patient. I patched it together to try and form something cohesive. Stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy. So as we get into the video a little bit more, you guys might start asking questions like, well, where did the harness come from? Where did the ECU come from? Why weren't we told about this? This is stuff that I've had for a while. I just never posted it, and my last video that I was going to film was actually going to be me putting the harness in the car and showing you guys how easy it is to install. But I ordered a harness for a drive-by cable car instead of a drive-by wire car. It kind of just led me to take everything apart, because I was like, there's so much I need to change now. A lot of inputs and outputs that need to change, some wires that need rerouted. I'm going to redo everything. So yeah, that's partially why I haven't got a new video out anytime sooner. I'm going to throw it back to the footage I was originally filming. I just spliced it to keep what was important. That being said, there's still a lot of talking coming up, and it's not quite in chronological order, so just bear with me, guys. Alright, I am finally back for what will hopefully be the most comprehensive install of a Haltech Elite 2500 ECU and Terminated 2JZ 350Z harness. So I've got pretty much everything laid out here on the table that I'm going to need, including the harness itself, the quick installation guide, the ECU back there, as well as a coil on plug harness specifically for the R35 coils that I have set up on this car. And with that should be everything we need to get started on getting your 350Z up and running with this same wiring harness setup, assuming it doesn't turn into a tutorial on how to create a bomb. In the guide it says to, let me show you real quick, make sure that you have your engine grounded to the battery. So the first thing I did was cut the clip off of this thing. So this is the original ground, I think, for the alternator on the 350Z's VQ35DE. This coincidentally lines up in about the same place. And then I've got myself a little bracket bolted to the block right there. And then I've got the other ground wire bolted to that bracket, and that should ground the block to the chassis. And under the assumption that your battery is the same as mine, you have a ground that goes to the terminal on the battery itself and then touches the inside of the chassis over in here. And I think for the sake of ease, one of the first things I'm going to do before jumping into this giant mess of wires here is to start with the coil and plug connectors, because that's very, very simple. Everything's already set up on my engine. I'm going to take this out so I can get that wire underneath it. And I probably won't be finalizing all of this. I'm just going to be showing how to connect everything in. There is a ground on this, so this will ground to probably the cylinder head. I believe that's what it says to do. Yep, cylinder head ground. Then that leaves this connector to plug into the harness itself. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the whole harness, I'm going to shove it up through the inside of the car and through this hole here. Alright, that boot's not the right size, but that technically is the cutoff point between inside and outside. As for the inside, it's a mess in here. Please do not judge me, or do in the comments, I don't care. All this stuff should be stuff related to the ECU itself, such as all this. This is probably going to be something I'm going to have to pin and then connect to the ECU. This is the fuse box. This is for the fuel pump. Yeah, but for right now, let's just tackle this. It's a mess. And we're gonna make it not a mess. So the very first one I plugged in over here was the VVTi solenoid. So right next to that is a bunch of stuff that has to do with the coolant, crank, a couple other things. On this particular set of valve covers, the wiring routes underneath this plastic piece here. I'm kind of just gonna tuck everything underneath there as I'm going. There is a coolant temperature sensor gauge. I do not have a gauge currently, so that is gonna set off to the side right now. But I do have a coolant temperature sensor, which that is this plug here, and that is going to pop on right here. Crankshaft position sensor is plugged in right there. Now coming back over to this side, right here is my throttle position sensor. I'm using a Hitachi OEM Nissan Infinity throttle body, so this connector is going to be completely different. I started saying I was going to use an adapter, but I actually do have to completely repin everything to make this work. So next that I have found here is the camshaft position sensor. This plugs into that, routes down there. Okay, so I didn't film it as I plugged them on because it was a pain in the ass to actually get to them, but there are two knock sensors down here. So there's a knock 1, it goes down through this hole, and you'll plug it into the knock sensor on the front side of the block, and then there's a knock 2. You'll tuck it down the back over here. You will probably have to reach under your throttle body like I had to, or around the back side of the fuel pressure regulator stuff. So right here, I started realizing that I have a lot of extra wires that I don't know what they're for yet. A few of them were actually needed to repin the throttle body. But these harnesses come with extra inputs and outputs that you can use for other things like fans, boost solenoids, flex fuel sensors, etc. And this next clip is just me, several months later probably, saying I didn't know what the fuck was going on. Anyways. Alright, so I want to say, it's windy as fuck, first of all. You might not be able to hear me all the way, but I wanted to do a kind of intermission / cutoff point in the video. So last time I was talking to you guys about all my extras, like my DPOs and stuff, digital pulse output or whatever, and what I'm going to use them for.
So I started looking into the harness, all the things that I'm not going to be using essentially, and what I need to change for certain plugs that aren't going to work. These are injector plugs. Obviously, these connectors are not going to work with those. Those are a 2-pin. These are a Bosch EV1 2-pin connector, which they don't line up. This plugs on the top here, and then you slide this little spring clip in to hold it onto the injector. So first off, these injectors are not going to work for the turbo setup, so I'm going to be changing those. Well, that's just for 2 reasons. It's not going to push enough fuel, and obviously the connector's not going to work with the harness. I probably could have done like a base tune with these, but it just makes sense to replace them. So since I'm replacing this, I'm also going to be replacing this. That means the fuel rail. So I got a radiant fuel rail over here, brand new in box. It comes with the spacers to space it out for like the perfect length, whether you got the normal 40, I think 7mm injector length or the 34. So that's what these are for. Those are the short feet for the 34 ones, and these are the longer feet for the normal size. I was talking earlier about how I wasn't going to run an oil pressure sensor. Then I realized my idle plug that I'm not going to be using and my TPS plug that I'm not going to be using, which are normally used for the OEM throttle body and a cable driven, that all of these inputs and outputs on these I can use for something else. So I might have room for an oil pressure sensor if I want one. Can't remember if I recorded this or not last time, which is pretty much the sole purpose why I'm in here right now. Connected both the main and sub main connectors for the harness. This is the 26-pin and 34-pin, if I remember correctly, connectors. So these are all the main inputs and outputs for the ECU, but there's a bunch of extra stuff here, and I wanted to talk about what all of this is for. So some of these are going to be for like the extra stuff that was in the engine bay. There are wires that come into here that you can also use for things like gauges and like a fan switch relay or something like that. So there's a lot of like customizability with how it works. There's also a CAN connector here that goes from the ECU, and what I'll be doing is I'll find a connector that goes to the CAN bus module on this vehicle, which I'm pretty sure plugs into the OBD2 port. Basically, I'll be able to run this pretty much independently of the car, but it still will be able to communicate with the chassis electronics, chassis control module, or something like that. Essentially, if the car were to get into an accident, my airbags would still work, my ABS will still work, my speedometer, tachometer. Additionally, there's another one here, which that's going to go to a wideband sensor. At the very beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure I had that set out on a table with all my other stuff. Also, I look so weird baby-faced. Yeah, so wideband sensor is going to be going into the exhaust when it gets made. That way we can monitor exactly what the engine is doing as far as fuel-air ratio, which, by the way, is probably a gauge that I'm going to be needing all of this shit for. Alright, so now that I'm done ranting, here's essentially the plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the fuel rail. I'm going to start there, make room for the new one. Even though I don't have the injectors yet, I can still kind of get everything apart and get it ready for when they do arrive.
So I go on to explain the reason why I'm changing the fuel rail aside from the injectors. It's because this one, when you put it in, it's just not very stable, and I'm cutting a lot of the actual talking out because, oh my god, I can't shut the fuck up. So with the radium fuel rail, I know I'm going to get better stability holding the fuel rail to the runner. Also, I feel a lot safer with the injectors because the bushings and the O-rings seat a lot deeper, and we like seating it deep on this channel. We really do. Also, the fuel pressure regulator and fuel pressure damper go directly onto the radium fuel rail, whereas before I had to make some modifications to even make it work. Anyways, in the meantime, while I'm waiting on injectors to show up so I can do the fuel rail stuff, this arrived. This is actually a radiator hose kit for a LSX swap on a 350Z. The reason I bought it is because like it looks like it's just about the right size, length for the 2J. As you can see, the water neck sticks out right there. This is already at an angle, so it looks like it's going to go down, across, and over, and it bends at a 90, which is where my radiator is down there. And I've already tested that this could, in some way, shape, or form, fill in for the really crappy old hose that I have there. So that's probably where that's going to end up, because it comes with 2 hoses, top and bottom, so I was like, I'll try it out. It was 130 bucks, or 135 or so, and yeah, we're going to test it out real quick and see if we can make it work. Comes with clamps, a little thingy-mabob that goes in the middle so you can splice it, shorten, whatever you need to do with it. And these 2 guys that hook into that
and that down there on the radiator. So let's give it a go.
I have no idea what the fuck I just said. I also want to mention that I don't know if those were gunshots or fireworks, but so at this point in the clip, I start talking for way too long about how I'm using a different size of a hose fitting. A 1.5 inch was the old one and it was too big, and now I'm using a 1 3/8 diameter for the new hose.
That's the one that's going to fit the new hose, so that is going to go in here. Alright, now that that's in there, I'm going to try and guesstimate how much hose I need. So with the top hose here, or the old one, I actually had a little bit of a kink with that one when I put it on, but it's roughly the right length, so I'm going to use it to kind of guesstimate where I need to cut the new one. Alright, so I ended up cutting about that much off right there, basically the 90-degree elbow. I went ahead and test fit it off camera. It's still a little long, so I think I'm going to cut about 3/4 of an inch more off right there. And I'm just using a razor blade. It cuts through this stuff pretty easy. I ended up taking about another inch out of it or so, so I'm going to head...
You're going to what?
I'm going to go ahead and try and put this in.
I thought bro was about to say some vile shit right there. Remember when this guy talked about churning a baby inside of his engine? Go back to episode 1.
So it's still got a little bit of a kink in it, but it's a lot better than what it was before. So I'd recommend these hoses for sure. They're oversized, so that means you can cut whatever you want out of it. And I think honestly to get that kink out, I could probably notch this side a little bit more and angle it farther forward towards the radiator. Alright, so I went ahead and cut the big long tube in half because I know I'm going to have to splice part of it, and that's going to go in the middle regardless. I don't have enough clamps for it, so I will show you guys what that looks like or how much I end up cutting out of either one end. Alright, I have now gotten that lower radiator hose in, and I actually cut about, I think, 5 3/4 inches out of the hose itself. It's almost butted up against each other on each side, and there's like a 1/4 inch of space on that little sleeve that goes in between, so it's pretty close. So coincidentally, by the time that I have just finished that radiator hose, my injectors have arrived, since I can never finish a single task on a single day. I got these 1000cc alpha injection injectors specifically for the 2JZ rail. I think they are a 14mm head on those, and they come with a slightly larger O-ring at the top that goes into the radium rail, and these are specific for the Toyota connectors, but I found these on Amazon. I think these were like 20 bucks for the set, and it comes with 8 of them. That connects into the injector there, and then at the top is a Bosch EV1. So this is a Toyota connector, Toyota to Bosch EV1, which is what the harness has. So that's a very simple and cheap solution for the 2J as far as the injector wiring goes. That means I don't have to splice anything, which is freaking awesome.
You don't even know yet.
And I don't have to do pigtails or any of that BS. However, before I get to the actual fuel rail, I wanted to do the starter wiring first, because I think at the beginning of the video, or at some point, I'll be talking about the fact that the starter just has a little spade connector, which is not exactly ideal because the starter itself has a plug, and if you've seen for the last several seconds, this has been in my hands. This is the original connector for the starter, which I actually took off of the OEM 2JZ GE non-VVTi harness, which I saved, which was a great idea because that means I don't have to buy stupid little things like this. But if you do need to buy this, this is like a, I think, $10 to $15 connector. You can probably order it from Drift Motion, or I guess vendor that sells 2JZ stuff. Either that or eBay. eBay has everything. But what I was gonna do is take this, just put a little, you know, male connector on the end of it.
This is Grompert's first debut on video on my channel. Make sure to say hello to Grompert in the comments. If you want to see more content of that, let me know in the comments as well. And additionally, I just wanted to say sorry for all the talking that's going on in this video. I know it's been a lot of talking. I know you guys prefer to see like more chunks of me actually working on stuff, so I will try to implement that further in videos going forward.
Alright, I need to take a quick intermission from the montage just to show you what's going on. So I was getting ready to put the fuel rail in. I got all the extra fittings put on. Pressure regulator, pulse damper, in fittings for the fuel hoses and whatnot. As I was setting this down in the car, I realized that it doesn't look like it's going to fit. So as you can see, I have this little guy, which is one of these right here, taken off the end of this injector. So I think that with that on, it's actually going to sit too high. So I'm going to take these off of all the injectors, test fit it again, and let you guys know if that works or not. Alright, they're all off, so I'm going to try and test fit it yet again in the car. And just like that, fuel rail is in. I say just like that, but it took a f***ing lot of work actually. Alright, one of the last things I wanted to include in this video is actually a very special piece. This is the throttle body adapter that I had made at where I work. That way I could finally get the throttle body attached to the 350Z. And yeah, I'm just going to do a little compilation of me getting this put in the car. So here goes.
Before I get roasted in the comments by people who definitely know better than me, no, I don't know if this is actually going to seal. I don't think it'll be a huge issue, but I figured that someone would be like, yeah, that's not going to fucking work. You're going to blow that gasket out. The same way I'm going to blow your grandma's back out. I actually think I want that to be my top comment, so if someone says that, like it. Alright, so here's that adapter. I 3D printed some gaskets to go with it. I used PETG. I hope that'll seal well. They're pretty flat, pretty smooth, so I don't think I have anything to worry about. I got bolts set up for this to bolt to that. And I've got the OEM hardware for the throttle body, but I've actually got to grind the tips of them off because when I designed this throttle body, I designed it with the intention that, you know, this is going to be flat here where these holes come through. If I were to leave those little things sticking out on the top of the bolt, essentially I'd have to poke a through hole through this, and then that would risk, you know, the gasket possibly not sealing. That will be going in there. Like, the moment of truth is whether this bottoms out or not. If it does, then I gotta shorten the bolts more. So that did bottom out. I probably need to take like another millimeter or so off. Alright, now I've got it all bolted up in there. You can see the gasket, see the spacer adapter, gasket, throttle body. It's on there solid. Actually looks really good. But I did notice that this plug might be a little bit of an issue when I get to wiring that. I was actually planning to do the throttle body adapter and the wiring in the same video, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. There's probably going to be a lot more involved with just doing that. So at least for the time being, I think I'm going to end this video here. But there will be a part 2, I promise. So the whole point of this was to show you, I mean, everything from start to finish, like we've been doing from day one. And for this particular part of the series, to be the most comprehensive wiring guide for this motor setup. So, that being said, thank you for watching, obviously. I do want to say that if you have any questions, comments, or, you know, anything that you want to say, put it down below. And I'd be willing to do some Q&A. But without further ado, that's the end of this one. Thank you guys for watching. Peace out. See you in the next video.